conspiracy head, right? Maybe they were punishing them for making this movie.
Dude, maybe. Yeah.
Let's put it out there.
But I think that let's put it out there. Let's see if that sticks.
I declare conspiracy.
What do you know about two certified bangers? PhantasmaCast.
Welcome back to PhantasmaCast. I'm Derek.
And I'm Jake.
And this is our season 2 opener. We're going to be talking about two films from the 70s, Winter Kills and Nashville.
We're back.
We're back. I'm feeling it. I'm cozy. How are you feeling? I'm pretty cozy. I'm posted up here.
I look at you and I'm jealous of the coziness, but I don't think I could do this cozy. I gotta be rigid.
It's too much for you.
Yeah. I gotta be the millennial rigid.
Our two movies today are Winter Kills from 1979 and Nashville from 1975. And I'll be kicking it off with Winter Kills. On November 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and American politics has never been the same. I say this on the off chance we have any non-American listeners tuning in, and any American middle schoolers currently scratching their heads over how to start their history paper on JFK. I say, you're welcome. Why let AI churn out a soulless and routine opening sentence when the guys over at PhantasmaCast can do that for free?
We're on it. We're on the case.
Yeah, less of a carbon footprint too. Added benefit. The answer to that pseudo question is: please consider subscribing to the podcast and following us at Two Certified Bangers on socials. Thank you. But back to the film at hand. For those unfamiliar with Winter Kills, the plot is basically we follow Nick Keegan, a younger half-brother of former American President Tim Keegan, who was assassinated in office. Feeling like the true motivation behind his brother's killing was never truly established, Nick takes it upon himself to pick up the trail 19 years later, much to the amusement of his obscenely wealthy businessman father, Pa Keegan, who offers up insults and guidance in equal measure during Nick's journey down the rabbit hole. So, conspiracy and conspiracy theories have always been around, in some form or another. After all, it's really fun to imagine like the worst possible version of someone that pisses you off even a little bit.
You're able to take something real and create a story that fits what you kind of expect, or like a fun version of reality. You know?
Even about mundane things. Like, for example, I have one about people who drive in the right lane on the freeway. We just call them right lane riders. That's not a thing, but it makes me feel good to be like, if someone's driving slow on the right, you're like, oh, you little right lane rider.
They have a meeting that they go, and they're just like, we need to piss off specifically Derek.
Yeah.
They've
got a members only jacket and stuff. So that's like the commonplace, like fun little like dumb conspiracy theories that we all play around with in our head. But more common targets of like harmful conspiracy theories are the rich and powerful figures that we see in the news from time to time, or more annoyingly so, seem ever present on social media. I'd like to thank Mr. Zuckerberg for bringing us all together. I feel so connected. Please stop. Please end it. End it now. Stop. Resign. Anyways, even back then, like conspiracies were aplenty, especially from the fallout of JFK's assassination, right? So that was 1963. Then when this film was being developed in the like mid 70s, I want to say, because 74 is when the novel came out. So writer and first time director William Richard, Richard. He was keen on tackling the conspiracy-addled novel upon which the movie was based, but was soon to find himself caught up in his own conspiracy of the film's own making during its production. And I ended up diving into that when I watched the making of documentary called Who Killed Winter Kills. Great title. And a fun fact about this is you can actually watch this for free on YouTube, on his YouTube channel.
Richard?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So he's got a YouTube channel. He uploaded it. He uploaded it twice. He didn't replace it. 16 years ago he uploaded it. It's like 180p. And then he's like, you know what? I got a 360p one I've been sitting on. And he uploaded that too. So
the dads are on YouTube, I guess.
It's great.
So the movie is essentially about Jeff Bridges' character, who is the half brother of the president, who's basically a stand-in for JFK, right?
Yeah. Thinly veiled is really stretching it. It is not veiled at all.
Yeah. And they are both the sons of this I want to say oil magnate, but he's got his hands in everything.
Yeah, it's
right?
pretty ambiguous what his business is, except like one time he's like, I own a bunch of hospitals.
His portfolio is diversified.
Yeah.
And he's played by John Huston.
Yeah.
Expertly played by John Huston.
And poorly played by me. I've got a lot of portfolios. I will be busting out a John Huston impression later on.
Please do.
So we got that to look forward to.
What do you think these girls are doing under this blanket?
That is a great scene.
So the whole movie is Jeff Bridges trying to discover who was it that 'cause they know who pulled the trigger, right? He wants to
the
find
mummy.
out who the money called and the money pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
He's trying to find out who ordered the hit on the president.
Yeah. So the money did call, but like they actually like the guy who confesses to it is all wrapped up in bandages. So I was like, he's the mummy, you know? But yeah, we start on like
An oil rig.
an oil rig or like an aircraft carrier, something like that. And they're like,
He is an oil magnate because he's on an oil. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. And they bring the mummy in on a stretcher and they're like, here's the guy, here's the gunman.
This guy's on his deathbed and reveals, I'm the one who shot and killed the president.
Yeah.
And to prove that, here's where I hid the gun. And Jeff Bridges finds the gun.
Yeah.
And
Immediately loses it, by the way.
yeah, because the three other guys that he was with to like prove that he found the gun
Just
get fucking shot and killed.
murked. Yeah, while he's like watching this woman on a bike with like a kid in the back, which is never explained. That's like the most like surreal like element of it. I feel like it's a thread they planted in the movie that they didn't really follow up on.
You see her later though when someone else is murdered, and so I took that as a pretty clear like she's an assassin, you know.
Okay,
Like
That
she's
is a way
the
to
one
look at it.
who killed those guys. So
Yeah.
the murder of the other officials that were with him when he found the gun kicks off his journey to try and find out who's behind all this.
Yeah, because he immediately calls up his dad. He's like, "Dad, they're dead. I don't have the gun anymore." He's like, "Come on home."
Yeah.
But then we learned that like one of those guys that even died was like a fake official.
He was a plant.
So immediately, if you're not keeping track of names, you could easily get lost in all these like connections.
Yeah, this was our second time watching the movie, and I had to put on the subtitles so that I could just like know who is who.
Yeah, and like even the director like acknowledges that that's kind of like the part of the novel that he was like really hesitant about adapting was all of those conspiracies flying left and right. He's like, it could just feel like a list, like a litany of people, places, names, and dates. And he's like, let's add something to it. So he went with a more black comedy approach.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's pretty funny.
No, it is. It's a hilarious movie, and I feel like the Coen brothers had to have watched Winter Kills, and it had to have had some sort of inspiration on The Big Lebowski in some way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the most obvious thing is casting Jeff Bridges as a hapless man trying to like figure out what's behind, this conspiracy going on.
Yeah.
But it is funny.
And probably some elements for like Burn After Reading with like the CIA involvement, and
right?
stuff. That stuff.
But going back, like it could easily become this litany of facts mixed with falsehoods. It is that though, right? Like it gets softened with like the absurdity of it, but it is kind of exhausting.
Yeah,
keeping track with the threads, because it feels like every time Jeff Bridges gets a lead to try and figure out who was it that actually made the order, it goes from it was the mob to it was a rival business person to it was maybe even his dad, John Huston, you know?
Yeah.
And then Anthony Perkins' character, who I think is a stand-in for the CIA.
Yeah.
Like one guy is representative of the entire kind of like information network of the government.
Yeah, given that organization a face.
Yes.
He could be mad at someone.
But he's just this fucking weirdo who spends all day analyzing data. And he actually has a really cool monologue towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite scenes. It helps that he's played by Anthony Perkins. Yeah. So that's great. Cerruti is the character's name.
Cerruti. Yeah.
Great. Love that.
And it's, you know, if you're the kind of person who wants like a clean ending to the movie and you walk away knowing exactly what the answer was, it's not that movie.
Yeah.
Which I think is great, because when it comes to these conspiracies, like conspiracies are designed to hide what's actually the truth, right? So much so that like the truth kind of doesn't matter anymore. It's the story that the conspiracy tells, and who's going to adopt it and believe it more, you know?
Or when the truth is revealed, what do you do with it?
Right.
And the ending is actually kind of bleak for a black comedy. You know, it actually it ends on a bummer. We can get to that when we get there.
Yeah.
But I do want to circle back to like the making of it, the initial inception of it, like jumping
steeped in its own conspiracy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So it like started as that 1974 book by Richard Condon, who did The Manchurian Candidate.
Okay.
So not his first time.
He's got a niche.
Yeah.
Don't trust the government.
But I think when Winter Kills came out, everyone was kind of like, you went a little off. Like, go off, King, but you went a little too hard on that one. So like the Manchurian Candidate is a little more revered, I think. Winter Kills is the Nick Keegan. It's the half brother.
Yeah.
You know?
That was assassinated.
But the cynicism towards like the overall political machine at the time is what makes the movie work even still now, because there is still that cynicism. It has not gone away. It's just of a different flavor now, right? So when Reichert shared the screenplay with people, he said the screenplay got people who read it got scared.
Yeah.
From it, even with all that comedic elements thrown in.
So what do you mean scared? Like they're like, I'm afraid to be associated.
Like, how can you say this? How are you're gonna put this on film and show it to people? Like, aren't you afraid of the blowback? Basically,
right.
So he like just commends. He just commends all the actors and just calls them courageous, and he just has a immense love for them. So that was a great element of the making of doc, is to see how much like normal filmmaking, like just love and camaraderie and craftsmanship went into it, despite the cynicism of the source material and the screenplay.
Because we're not very far removed from the era of you're a communist, you know?
Dude, it's happening again right now. Not to get too much into the politics of now, but I mean,
there's a reason we're watching this movie.
Yeah,
now,
if there's an excuse, it's because we're talking about a conspiracy theory movie. But yeah, people are like, I heard a TikTok the other day, and it was someone being like, "Have you now, or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party?" I'm like, "We're doing Red Scare shit again?"
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding?
Yeah, we tried this already,
dude.
It sucks.
Yeah. And it won over a bunch of fans last time, right? Like, it didn't make us more nationalistic or anything. But the screenplay. So another person who loved the screenplay was John Huston. But John Huston's agent who read it didn't want anything to do with it. He was like, no, John's not going to like this.
Yeah, John's Americana, you know?
That was the agent's opinion.
Yeah.
But then someone else working at the agency was like, nah, I like it. I'm going to send it over to him directly.
Yeah.
And he read it and loved it. And Reichardt says, quote, that Huston apparently had the same opinion of Joseph Kennedy that Richard Condon did. End quote. So I love that. He's Richard is a character. I love him. He's like kind of grumbly, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I sent the screenplay over."
Those are the best kind of directors.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Wait, speaking of that, at this point, is John Huston known as much as an actor as he was a director, or is he just doing bit parts, like cameos?
I actually didn't look too far into like his career as an actor in that. I think he was just kind of hopping in and out, but they were surprised that he was just so on board as being an actor.
Yeah.
He didn't like jump in and be like, here's how I would direct it. Even though Richard was a first-time director, he was hands-off. He said, what do you need me to do?
Right.
Is there anything I could do better for you?
No,
You know?
I mean, he brought so much to the role. Like, it's great seeing him do what he does, and then watching Danny Houston.
Yeah.
You know, because they have the same kind of mannerisms too.
As soon as he hits that like 65 mark, boom, he's gonna inherit the mantle.
Remake of Winter Kills with Danny Houston.
Ooh.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So when Richard and Houston met, Houston is quoted as saying about the screenplay, he's like, I love it. And he says, oh, it's a piece of work. I knew some of the players, so we could have a very good time with this.
Some of the players, as in politicians and like in real life.
Yeah.
Great.
I love
Fantastic.
I knew some of the players.
I'm plugged in.
So I had to get
When
that.
do we shoot?
Yeah. The good times were soon to end because the first domino was about to fall. The production would find itself wrapped up in a conspiracy of its own. It wasn't until, Richard says, it wasn't until about the 11th week of shooting that we learned the picture was in trouble. So during the climactic moment between Perkins and Bridges on that like catwalk thing, they're actually in a catwalk in a studio in like an MGM lot.
Okay.
And they're shooting that. And it turns out that like Billy Club thing that Bridges is like, tell me, was it my father?
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna break your arm.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna do it. That was a real Billy Club.
Okay.
So he like actually pretty much breaks Perkins's arm or like hurts him.
Yeah.
But they kept going. But I think they got what they got, and the lights started flickering, and then the lights just turned off. And everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And then the union busts into the lot and is like, "Nope, shut it down. You get down, get off. This picture's shut down."
Oh shit.
Yeah. Apparently, no one had been getting paid for like weeks, and the crew knew that. They weren't like, "Oh, this is news to me." They were like, they just loved the project so much and believed in it that they were going forward with it. They're like, oh, we'll get paid eventually. But the union, when the union found out about it, they're like, no.
Yeah.
So they got shut down by the union. And Richard confronts the main producer, Leonard Goldberg, or Lenny, as he calls him.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I talked to Lenny. And it turns out of the 5 sound stages they were shooting on,
They were shooting on 5
They were
sound
shooting on
stages?
5 sound stages.
Jesus.
They weren't paying for any of them. And he's like, how could this be?
Yeah.
And his answer that he got from Lenny was, quote, the idea was that Lenny figured that if enough people were owed enough money, they'd have to finish the movie. And he's like, well, you can see how that turned out.
What a fucking insane way to go about
Just like,
the business.
actually, you can't stop.
Yeah.
You can't stop giving us services because we're 60% done.
Yeah.
So
We're going to go so deep, you need it to finish.
this hole that I dug, it's because of you. You know? Yeah, that was an insane thing. And then kind of get really morbid on you real quick. So that was in like 76, I want to say. And then in 1979, mere weeks before the premiere of the movie,
Yeah.
that same producer, Lenny Goldberg, He was found shot in the head and handcuffed.
Holy shit.
Yeah, to his bed in his apartment. He was just killed, like gangland style.
Do they know?
They suspect it was mob ties because him and his other main producing partner, Robert Sterling, they were tied up in like a bunch of things, but one of them was like marijuana smuggling.
Crazy.
Yeah. So then Sterling would later be convicted in 1982 over it.
Of the murder?
No, for smuggling pot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That
would be crazy though. Like, he
know,
did it. He's like, you weren't paying me either, Lenny.
Yeah. The mob's like, you got to do your friend if you want to get out of it. You know what I mean?
Dark. Yeah. Do you want to guess how many years he got sentenced for?
For marijuana smuggling?
Yeah, 1982.
I mean, it's got to be a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
20 years?
40.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I thought that was insane. I was like, one guy just gets gangland styled, and then another guy gets sentenced to 40 years in prison for something that's legal now.
Conspiracy head, right? Maybe they were punishing them for making this movie.
Dude, maybe. Yeah.
Let's put it out there.
But I think that let's put it out there. Let's see if that sticks.
I declare conspiracy.
But I think that was like the main source of funding was their operations.
Was selling pot?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it went through its ups and downs and like, you know what? No one's buying right now. And we got our MGM lot shut down. So then so they were shut down, right? And they were still like, oh, everyone was crushed, but they still did some filming in secret, like all the Philadelphia stuff to find the rifle.
Yeah.
That was done like unofficially.
Okay.
They got like the crew and the main cast to come out. They're like, listen, we know we got shut down, but let's do some pickup stuff. And a crew member who had not gotten paid for a generator tracked down a producer, not Sterling, this guy, John Stark.
Okay. And
he had a sawed-off shotgun and he pushed it up against his neck and he's like, give me my fucking money for my generator. I'm like, damn, dude, that guy wanted to get paid.
Yeah.
So he got it out of him. But then there was like other instances, like the production designer named Robert Boyle. He recounts a time where he was in like a nice hotel room and he walks in, and he's like, and there's just this woman in a trench coat. She has it like half off and she's like grabbing bills out of her bra and like stuffing it in a suitcase. And he's like, okay. And like, that's how he got paid one time.
This movie was funded by the mob. Holy shit.
Hey, Janet, come on in. Yeah, make a deposit. We got to pay, we got to pay John over here. Or Robert. Sorry, we got to pay Robert.
We're really, really funny though, because the mob is part of the conspiracy in the actual movie, right? Which, I mean, like the mob is even suspected in JFK's assassination too, right? So ties go deep.
Yeah. So to be playing with fire that brazenly.
Yeah. It's like, you are making a movie about these people. You know what they're capable of.
But we have a relationship. They would never. That's what they all say.
Yeah.
You know? So that was like, it got shut down. I forget how it got shut down the second time, but it was basically dead in the water after a certain point.
Yeah.
So how did it get finished? Right? The tides would briefly turn in their favor once Richard secured a deal to make this movie also with Jeff Bridges called The American Success Company. And I'm not making that up. That's the title of the movie. It was co-written by Larry Cohen of The Stuff.
I love Larry Cohen.
Right. I thought you would dig that, so I wrote that down. But the money made from the American Success Company was able to fund the completion of the movie. They took that and they're like, yes, let's do it. Let's get Winter Kills. So even after like 2 years of being like shut down, we think it's dead. They still had that itch to finish it. They weren't gonna be held down.
They were 60% in. They had to finish.
Yeah. So yeah, they, after like the 2 years of nothing, they did 2 weeks of shooting with what they could afford.
Right.
And that's how they finished the movie. They did the final shootout. They did that scene with ZK. I forget his name. I'm actually going to look it up. I have it open right now.
Kurosawa's guy?
No, the tank guy. They did that scene with Z.K. Dawson, the guy in the tank.
Oh, the dude that's in Strangelove.
Yeah.
The guy that's like, they're after my precious liquids.
Yeah, Sterling Hayden is the actor's name.
What a name.
Yeah. They did that scene. It was like supposed to rain that day, and there's like a whole sequence where Richard's like, no, they're not going to shut down this fucking movie again. Nature's not going to do it. Like, oh, we're going to finish this movie. And then the clouds clear up and he's like, action. And they get it off. They get those crazy, like that's good production value for like 2 weeks of some pickup shots after they thought the movie was dead. They got real tanks and shit in there. That was cool. And they got the shot off before it got cloudy and it rained and ruined the natural light there.
Yeah. What a scene, though.
Yeah, that was great. The climactic end scene after the Cerruti confrontation of like, was it Pa? Was my dad? He Nick goes to his father's like office building, which I think is supposed to be like the Pan Am building, which is a Kennedy building in real life, by the way. They weren't allowed to shoot there because of reasons. Maybe the content of the movie. And I love that scene because when he emerges from the elevator, the security that has him, he's looking haggard. He's looking like he's like slept outside for a few days. The security team is like, yeah, we didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
He didn't like acknowledge any relation at all. And I thought that was great because that's the first time in this movie that he's not name dropped his dad to get something. I think he's like actually feeling,
because this is after he's spoken with Cerruti, and Cerruti is like, it was your father that ordered the hit.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, because then that, and then he goes and checks in on the medical facility that has Yvette.
Yeah.
His woman.
Yeah.
And she's just on an operating table, dead. They killed her. So I would be haggard too, and I wouldn't drop my dad's name. I'd be like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
So he's just defeated looking in this elevator, and he's not name dropping his dad. And he's like, oh, bring him in. And then he has the shootout with Richard Boone. That's what his name is.
Who you think is his friend.
Yes. Who has a name that's similar to... Yeah, Richard Boone. Kefitz.
Yeah.
Kefitz shows up again.
Who fakes his death. Because he's plugged in. He knows, like, they're going to go after him. So he fakes his death. But also, then it turns out he's like an inside man too, right? So, like, you have all these turns in the movie where they're setting your expectation, and you think that you have been told the truth, and then another twist happens, and that wasn't the case at all, right?
Yeah.
So you really don't know where you stand in the movie in terms of like what side you're on, even, or what you're fighting for, or, what the, it's almost gets to the point where like finding out who made the order of the hit on the president doesn't even matter. Because at the end, they're coming for Jeff Bridges too.
Yeah. So then Kefitz has this like shootout with them. And it's just, it happens. Nick shoots him. And then Pa Keegan's like, he panics.
I love that shot where he's like, was it you, Pa? Was it you? And he looks shocked. Right. And, he's trying to find his cigars, but he's keeping an eye on Jeff Bridges the whole time, and then he like he wheels over a chair to like stand on it to get this box of cigars from the top. I just thought like that was a choice, It was John Huston choice, like being so taken aback that he's asking, was it you? Was it for the money? And then like he needs a cigar to like deal with it. So he's like, I've got to find the cigar first before I can like engage with you on this.
And he's like, he stumbled onto some real stuff rather than just like, you,
Yeah.
Nick, you less than son. Because he's treated like a less than son the whole time.
Yeah.
There's like this whole thing that we didn't even touch on actually.
Because he doesn't fuck.
Doesn't fuck. Came from his like second wife, who's portrayed as being like this worrisome, sickly like woman, like just all right.
Yeah, he's
leave the
sensitive
room while
one.
men talk.
He has no business sense, you know. Not like the other son who became the president. This would have taken me rewatching the whole movie over again, but I kind of also wanted to figure out if there was something to that moment, because he's confronting him. He's saying, "Was it you who did it?" And he makes such a point of getting his cigar. So I was like, wait a minute. Okay, let's go back and watch the movie. And are there scenes where he's talking to him without smoking? And are there scenes where he's talking to him and he is smoking a cigar? And it's like, is the cigar
like his tell?
Like, yeah, like is in the scenes where he's smoking a cigar, is he lying to him?
Oh,
you know?
that's a good one.
And he's like, he can't tell him a lie unless he has a cigar. So he's like, that's why he's got to get the cigar first before he can even like answer that question. So in my third rewatch of the movie, I want to look out for that and see.
Yeah. And then there's, after all that happens, he decides to jump out onto the balcony and then jump over the edge and clamber onto like this American flag, which is the big visual thing that they use to like promote the movie. It's on the cover. It's usually like the still that comes up if you Google the movie. And it's such a odd scene because he's just gripping down and he's shouting up like, "Put it all in Brazil. Like that's the future." And then the flag tears, which is on the nose, but I love it.
Yeah.
And he slides down through the tear and he's just shouting like business advice. It's not, there's no fatherly thing about it at all.
There's no fatherly thing about it at all. There's no, confession or regrets. Nothing to do with anything about what's going on. He's just, I'm going to give you like, I think that maybe itself is a confession because his focus is on maintaining like the family legacy, maintaining
the dynasty first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe that's your answer, you know,
Yeah.
Take what you will from that.
And then I think after that, he just kind of sits with that info, walks out the building, and then we're treated to this Yvette's room as he calls the answering machine. He knows she's dead. He's just calling to hear her voice.
Yeah.
And then it ends. That's rough.
Because he's made it pretty clear early on in the movie that like he only loves one woman. He's only ever loved one woman. Mm-hmm. And it is this person who he has been told has been lying to him their entire relationship.
Yeah.
But then again, like at one point they're like, she was an actress who was just hired to sleep with you and, you know, misdirect you, you know, but then they kill her. And you're like, well, if she was just an actress, why is she dead? You know?
Right.
So yeah, the only person he can't trust his family. He can't trust anyone else. He wanted to marry this woman. And now she's even gone.
Back to the release of the movie. So it gets completed. It is how it is. And then they release it in 1979. And despite initial rave reviews, the film gets quickly pulled from theaters. And they're like, yo, well, what? Like, we're even getting like good reviews from the New York Times, blah, 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 like reputable critics. So why would it get pulled? A film distributor called Avco Embassy Pictures started a smear campaign by claiming it was, quote, "It was not in the best interest of Americans to watch a picture like this."
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Wait, so is Avco, were they the distributor of the film?
No, they were just completely unrelated. They were another film distributor.
Oh, okay.
So what's their gripe, right?
Yeah.
Richard Condon, the original writer of the novel, writes an article called "Who Killed Winter Kills," in which he draws a line connecting Avco Embassy Pictures to major investments in defense contracts, which, drum roll please, are tied to the Kennedys.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. And JFK's brother, Edward Kennedy, he was thought likely to run for president in 1980. So they killed it.
So in the interest of that campaign, which never came to fruition, they killed the movie to avoid negative connections.
Yep. So like this event that happened in 1963, right? That everyone was like, oh my God, it's shocking. It's still having this domino effect even into the end of the next decade, leading into a new decade, as like, if you have anything to say about it, it's actually un-American. Get it out of here. So they fought for this movie.
Yeah.
And just because of the fucking whims of this
rich
fucking
people?
dynasty, no one gets to see it. So I'm so glad that it got saved somehow, like that a print of it exists and they were able to like restore it and we can see it today and like own it. Because, you know, perhaps this thinly veiled, like seedy expose was never going to blow the doors off of, you know, the box office or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, just to even exist and like maybe make its money back a little bit. No.
Yeah. And you've got to wonder, like, it all comes down to power and money, right? Oh, power, right? And then money is just a tool of power. But they wouldn't have wanted to pull the movie if they didn't fear it somehow, right?
Yeah.
And so when it comes to like manipulating people's conceptions, conspiracy theories is one way to do it, right? Hiding the truth. There had to have been something that they didn't want people to question about the movie, right?
Yeah. And to end my spiel on this, I want to quote Anthony Perkins's Cerruti character. You get the picture, Nick? You get the picture? You get the picture, Nick? I think that really says it all. Is just, do you get the picture? Do you understand why something like this, even if it's just like a comedy, it's not a full-on political thriller. It's too goofy, but it does have like something to say. Even that gets snuffed out. So it's like, it's amazing that like more serious political thrillers exist even before this. Like in the mid 70s, like The Parallax View, which I haven't seen, but it's widely regarded as being very good. But then there's 3 Days of the Condor, which I did watch a few months ago, and it's aces, man.
Oh, okay. You did watch it. Okay,
It's amazing.
I gotta borrow it.
Yeah, that's like a full-on political thriller. That's just so good. And I'm amazed that exists and got distributed and didn't get shut down, because I think they keep the actual politics pretty vague, and that's maybe why it is allowed to exist. There's political implications for sure that are real, but I think they keep like names and like direct associations out of it. Whereas this one, it flew a little too close to the sun, right? The sun being the Kennedys. But that's basically my foray into Winter Kills. And the making of it is, believe it or not, actually really upbeat until it's like, yeah, they got it made. And then it was unceremoniously killed again. It
contributes to kind of the absurdity that the movie is leaning into.
Yeah.
That it then, as a piece of art, as a statement, becomes swept up in the overarching conspiracy theory of the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah. But that's Winter Kills. So let's dive into our other movie for today, which was Nashville. You want to lead us into it?
So our second movie is 1975's Nashville, written by Joan Tewksbury and directed by Robert Altman. Robert Altman, celebrated director of, let's name him, Gosford Park, Shortcuts, Three Women, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which we love.
Yeah, we all named that right.
The Long Goodbye, which is one we had mentioned in our Stoner Noir episode. And then The Beloved MASH, right? And these movies are typically characterized as subversive, employing improvisation, multi-track recording, with ensemble casts, and which seem relentlessly is a word I want to use, grounded in reality, right? With all of those shining especially bright in Nashville. Nashville is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things. It's a musical, it's a satire. I didn't know this until I didn't like realize this until like looking a little deeper into research about it. But it's often described as a tapestry.
Yeah.
And I think it's a tapestry of post-Kennedy Americana.
Yeah.
Right.
Perfect. Yeah.
It is a slice of life kind of movie. It's like a peek into, you know, this microcosm of Nashville at this particular, you know, time in the American story.
Yeah.
It's about populism, and to steal a phrase from you, which I think was apt, it's an intersection of celebrity and politics in American society.
I said that?
You fucking said that.
Nice.
And I wrote it down and I stole it. Which, you know, we're talking, it's a movie that came out in 1975, at the kind of start of that intersection of celebrity and politics. And here we are with a literal fucking, reality TV star as the president, and his entire cabinet is populated with people that are, you know, of the media or other, you know, kind of popular culture, you know, mentions.
Yeah. This may be hack to point out, but like if you release this movie today, it'd be like, it's a documentary, you know?
Well, people were calling it a documentary then, you know, because of how, and we'll get into this later, but because of how it was shot and how it felt. It takes place during, or it's set during the bicentennial, right? So 1976 presidential election is looming. It's really grounded in this matter of fact. I don't know if you could call it a story so much as it's just like Robert Altman like throwing a camera, you know, at a scene. But basically we are following 24 main characters, mostly musicians, around Nashville, which is, you know, it's the mecca of country music, right?
Yeah.
I think what happens in the movie is secondary to how the movie feels, you know,
Yes.
in my opinion. It like a lot happens, but the way the movie's shot is it's just kind of like the camera's there and the actors are just are just playing out these situations, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what makes it feel very real, very natural.
Yeah. Can I borrow a phrase from one of our earlier episodes?
Yeah.
When Zemeckis said he didn't want to impose editing on Death Becomes Her.
Yeah.
Altman doesn't want to impose plot on this.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
very true. He doesn't want it to, like, he's not a director that I think is concerned with authorship, you know? Everything about the movie is a collaboration. And I think that ultimately contributes to the overall realism. I'm going to say realism a lot because I think that it's really important part of the movie.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons that when I first watched it, it actually kind of took me out of it.
Right. There, that's spot on. I think we both had the same reaction where I don't know what really happened.
Okay. Yeah. 2.5 hours in. What's the point?
Yeah. Because you go into a movie expecting a story, a beginning, middle, and an end, right? And even in a lot of like in David Lynch movies, right? They're very surrealist films, but they have a story that is trying to tell you. But this movie is so, it just feels like they just recorded real people and just put a bunch of sequences together, you know?
Yeah. The only exception being that British reporter woman?
Opal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't no way she's real. She is too damn racist and kooky for this.
But so basically how they made the movie was Robert Altman talks to Joan Tewksbury, and she was his script supervisor on a couple of films beforehand. And they were working on another project that came Altman's way that was set in Nashville. He ultimately passed on the project, but he was like, I like this idea of setting a movie in Nashville. So why don't you go there for a couple weeks and make some observations?
Cool.
That, so we could like turn that into a movie. And that's what she did. And she put it together into a script. And, while they maintain that a script was written with actual dialogue and everything, like they didn't shoot that script. They didn't shoot the dialogue.
Yeah.
That was written. They mostly took the situations that Joan had observed and then gave them to the actors as setups. And they ultimately had all the actors improvise their lines.
Yeah. So like you would say, would you agree that like the biggest like artifice in the movie or like the most planned out things are the songs, the music themselves? And like they retrofitted the situations into those songs.
The songs for sure. And then I think the thing that kind of ties everything together, the narrative thread, if you will, is the movie set in the lead up to the 76 election. And so you've got this political campaign going on for Hal Philip Walker of the replacement party. He's this populist candidate. And the movie actually opens after that insane fucking soundtrack pitch.
Yeah. Nashville, starring blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It very much begins like it's a commercial. Which is a stylistic choice that I enjoy, actually, is just now tuning in for your Nashville product. We interrupt this program to bring you Hal Philip Walker, the replacement party.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a funny thing about that title sequence, I had watched the commentary track, and Robert Altman is just like a very down to earth guy. He's just and this thing about this thing, but they didn't plan that opener. I think it was after the movie had been shot. Someone Altman knew had pitched that to him, and he was like, I like that a lot, and so they made that after the fact.
Okay.
And he was like, we'll have this open the movie, because those types of things existed then too.
Okay. That actually makes sense, because then how could you have that pre-planned out and then shoot the way he does with, you may or may not make it into the cut.
Right. Exactly. But then, after that, it goes straight into a speech, Hal Philip Walker speech, which was actually written and performed by, the name escapes me, but this guy whose family is a family of politicians in Louisiana. And friend of Robert Altman's. So this campaign is almost like a backdrop for the entire movie. You've got, I think the thing that kind of kicks off the story is these political operatives are trying to put together a rally for Hal Philip Walker.
Yeah.
And you caught this, where they're having that conversation during the pileup on the highway, where they're talking about how let's get country music stars to like endorse the candidate, because I think they had been referencing telethons where like actors would host telethons, and you'd call in, you'd get to like talk to the actor. Now they're like, we're moving on to the cutting edge thing, country music stars.
Yeah, because I think their logic behind that was that actors are just so phony.
Yeah.
Hollywood, nobody buys that Hollywood stuff out here in Nashville.
Let's get some salt of the earth.
Yeah. When you said telethons, I immediately think like the Jerry Lewis telethons, where he's just doing charity and stuff like that. And it's just funny that they're like, oh, those charities?
Yeah.
That's phony.
That's old hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need Barbara Jean.
So, and the campaign, I think, is really the thing that kind of drives the plot forward, because everything kind of is related to that.
In ways that you don't really pick up at first, but become clear.
But everyone in all these 24 main characters, they are all in that final scene.
Yeah. I think they're all on the pileup that you referenced too.
Yeah, as they're leaving the airport.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if they share a scene together, it's that, and then the rally.
I think as we talk about the realism of the movie, and something that like you see in a lot of Robert Altman films, especially going forward after Nashville, is the multi-track recording. So what Robert does is he sets up a situation, has all the actors in that scene improvise their performance. And so they're off in different parts of, say they're shooting in a bar, right? They're off in different parts of the bar, and he has multiple cameras shooting. I think he said he had 2 or 3 at all times, just to capture these, moments. And in order to do that, every actor was mic'd up individually. So rather than we're shooting this scene and then we're going to shoot this scene, and then everyone is kind of, everything is happening in real time. It's happening all at once. You don't have this kind of filmic thing where we're locked into this reality.
Yeah.
Everything is happening. And so that can be pretty overwhelming from an audiovisual perspective, because you're trained to focus on one thing, and so you're trying to find, like, what's the thing I should focus on? What is the director trying to tell me to do? Altman's not telling you to do shit.
No. And I think that would probably scare a lot of cinematographers away. They're like, no, I want to light for the scene. And
yes.
He's like, no, I'm going to have the camera wherever.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of flies in the face of like traditional filmmaking, which is admirable. And I can't even imagine how like playback would be, if there is any, on set for those multi-camera setups to be like, yeah, we got it.
Right. Well, what's even crazier is because he wanted it to feel so natural, so real, they rarely did more than one take.
So that's how we got it.
And that may be, I may have misheard it from the commentary, and that could just be for the musical performances and not the rest of the movie. But the musical performances, they recorded live, so it wasn't piped in from a studio recording. Wow. And they did 1 or 2 takes for those recordings, and so that's why they kind of feel rough. And Altman even points out he points out a moment when they're doing that Gary Busey song, since you've gone my heart is broken. Yeah. He points out when the woman singer, when her voice cracks in the song.
The one who's supposed to be like replacing Barbara Jean?
No, she's the character that is like, they're part of that trio, and she's married to one, but she's having sex with Keith Carradine.
Oh, when he brings them up on stage.
Yes.
He's like, they found me. I've been trying to avoid him. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So go back.
She's looking right at him being like, I fucking love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like,
I think the way he puts it, he's like, and somewhere around here, she gets a frog in her throat.
Brutal, man.
But no, I think he loves that. I don't think he said it from a point of criticism. He loved
he loved the mistake,
that it was real.
Yeah. Yeah.
One big note that kind of like hammers home that realism aspect of it is that the actors who performed the songs wrote the songs. They wrote all the songs that they performed.
Wow. Okay.
Most of them. Some of them they had purchased from other actors. Like all the Barbara Jean stuff. She wrote all those songs, but they bought one or two of her songs to give to other performers. But everything like performed in this movie was made for this movie by the people that were performing them, which I think is really cool. And, when you hear that, your brain kind of goes to, well, these are some really fucking talented people.
Yeah.
Cause they can act, they can write, they can sing. So much so that, the only Oscar that this movie took home, and it won a bunch of Golden Globes, but it was snubbed at the Oscars. It was nominated for a fuck ton of awards for the Oscars, but it only took home one. And it was Keith Carradine for
I'm Easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a banger. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. My banger, if I had to pick two to make it two certified bangers, would be Barbara Jean's Tape Deck in His Tractor.
Yes.
I love that.
I put that on when we were cooking dinner last week. I just started dancing like it was a country ditty. Brittany's like, you should start listening to country music more. I was like, well, this is these are satirical songs.
Yeah. What I was able to look up for the music aspect, the musical aspect of Nashville, as far as I'm aware, it actually got kind of ridiculed for not including real musicians of the time.
Uh-huh.
I think that's the best part about it, is that it didn't age like milk immediately by being tied to these like real musicians. It exists as is, and it'll be like that without any baggage that maybe those artists carry with them.
Yeah, and
later on.
And a fair amount of like the more kind of famous characters in the story are based on real people. The relationship where it's Barbara Jean and her husband, the kind of like abusive manager, were based on Loretta and Oliver Mooney, who were, it was like they were known to have that kind of relationship. And then Henry Gibson's character, Harlan.
Oh no, Haven.
He was based off of a personality in Nashville, kind of like a larger than life figure, who considered himself, like the welcome party to every, politician or famous person that would come to Nashville.
Yeah. Haven Hamilton.
Haven Hamilton
is the name. And I like that if we're looking for like a JFK thread earlier in the movie, I should say, spoiler, is Haven's son Bud, who I wrote in my notes as being like baby JFK.
Yes.
I think that was what you said. So I stole that from you. Baby Kennedy.
Baby Kennedy.
Yeah, Haven's son is Buddy Kennedy.
Buddy Kennedy.
And I love all his little scenes with Opal where he's like trying to be like earnest and like you think he's trying to be earnest.
Yeah.
But it's really just he's getting his name out there for future political ambitions.
And Opal, I think let's spend some time on Opal because
Sure.
she's hilarious as a character. So, all of the characters have like a through line, right? Like we see them and things happen to them. They make things happen. And Opal is one, she is a journalist who has come to Nashville because she's either preparing, I think she's preparing for a documentary for what she says is the BBC.
Yeah.
Now, something that was pointed out to me was early on when because she's a gate crasher, right? She just kind of pops up in all these places, and people are like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" So she's that like journalist that's gonna like get in. She's a gonzo journalist. She's gonna get in and you know get the story no matter what. And they ask her like, what are you doing here? She's like, I'm from the BBC. I'm with the British Broadcasting Company.
Oh,
but the real name of the BBC is the British Broadcasting Corporation.
okay.
So it was pointed out to me that like that's your first tell that she's full of shit.
She lies just well enough where
Yeah.
if you knew any better,
Yeah.
but maybe they don't know. They don't know.
So every scene she's in, she's supposed to be a journalist. She's supposed to be trying to like find this story, but she's so preoccupied with star fucking that she misses the point entirely.
Quite literally at
Right?
one point. Yeah.
So that scene with Buddy, like she's just stroking his ego until I was gonna say Anthony Bourdain.
Elliot Gould.
Until Elliot Gould shows up to the party, and she literally is like, "Is that Elliot Gould?" And then she runs off.
I love that. I sit down and watch that moment because he's like, Buddy, but Baby Kennedy is like, I wrote a song.
Yeah,
Would you like to hear it?
yeah.
She's like, yeah. He starts singing it, and it's not bad. It's pretty decent, and you can just see her. Is that Elliot Gould? And she just leaves. Opal, man.
And then in another scene, she literally, it's like the morning after she had slept with Keith Carradine's character.
Yeah.
And which leads to, I think, a great scene. So Keith Carradine's character, he's part of a trio of like a folk rock group, who is just like, you look up womanizer in the dictionary, it's a picture of his character.
Dude, yeah. Tom.
And the whole movie, he's trying to get with Lily Tomlin's character. He keeps calling her house and is just like, hey, so you want to get together sometime? You know?
Yeah.
But she's married to Ned Beatty, and she like is like somehow like an expert liar in that sense. Like he calls, but Ned Beatty answers the phone.
That's the second time that happens.
And she's like, I don't know, but this crazy man keeps calling. Next time he calls, I want you to, yell at him.
Yeah. And he's like listening.
Yeah.
On the phone. He's just like munching away, stewing over something.
He's not stewing over something. He is, and it's this great shot, and he's staring and watching an egg boil. That's what's happening in that scene.
Oh,
yeah, he's boiling some eggs, and it looks like he's like disappointed, but he's just watching the egg boil, which makes it so much funnier.
You know what? I've been there. All right. I thought I had no identification with that character whatsoever, but I've been there.
He's got the rag on his shoulder. It's just like, talk about a slice of life. Like the most boring fucking waste of time waiting for your goddamn food to cook.
Yeah.
But Keith Carradine, so he has sex with Lily Tomlin. He's banging the wife, and his fellow band member.
Yeah. He hits Opal.
He's
racking up numbers.
And we talk about the song "I'm Easy." When he sings that on stage, you get these shots of all three women because they're there in the audience, and they all think he's singing to them.
Yeah. Ooh, even we forgot one actually.
Which one?
Shelley Duvall, L.A. Joan.
Yes, L.A. Joan. Which that tells you like. He's gotten with her at some point,
which
right?
is so funny because before this scene of him being on stage, sorry to interrupt and derail it, but before him being on stage right now singing the song, we have seen him, I think, once in full at the airport when he arrived and in a bed.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever left that bed. He had like a line. He's like, next, after he's done.
And another touch I love about those scenes where he's in bed with women is his music is playing on a tape cassette in the room. He puts his own music on to like have sex with these women too. But yeah, they're all just kind of like looking at him like he's the most dreamy fucking thing, and they all think that he's singing about them. And to a point where like, no, he's really singing to Lily Tomlin, until after that scene. It's after they've had sex and they're having this kind of tender moment where she's teaching. She has deaf children, and she's teaching him the sign for "I love you."
Yeah.
And then she realizes how late it is, and she's like, "Oh, I gotta go." And then he's like, "No, why don't you stay another hour?" She's like, "No, I gotta go." And like, he takes that hit to his ego so immediately and so heavily while she's getting dressed to go back home to her husband.
Yeah, 5 feet away in the bathroom.
He calls up another woman and is like, "Why don't you come down tonight?" Like, why don't you come visit me next weekend? Why don't you come down to Nashville from New York tonight?
Yeah.
Which is, like this man he needs the adoration, of women, of anyone really. And that I think is they're getting into like the psychology of the rock star, the pop star kind of thing,
Yeah. If anything, he doesn't sound easy at all. He sounds difficult.
Yes. In that scene during the commentary, Robert Altman, like the only thing he has to say about that scene, the whole scene plays out, and as he's calling up the woman, Robert Altman goes, "Yeah, this man is he's very sick. He's a very sick man."
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm sleazy doesn't have quite the same ring to it as I'm easy.
That's good. And the whole movie is just these moments, right? Like I can't explain to you enough unless you watch the movie how little actual story there is. It's just these moments of like real like pieces of life. And it uses the realness of the characters, the situation, and the setting, I think, to deliver a satirical observation. One, the brazenness of American politics, or how brazen it's becoming, right? And I think Altman gave a really good piece of direction to the kind of political campaign, because throughout the movie, this van pops up. It's on the cover of the movie. This van pops up, and it's their campaign van. And it's just inserting the campaign slogans. The direction he gave to, the people that were playing those operatives that were driving the van was, "I want you to invade the movie."
That's cool.
Isn't that cool? That's so fucking cool.
It feels like an invasion too. They are truly just blaring the loudspeaker. Congress is run by lawyers.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Have you ever asked a lawyer the time of day and he told you how to make a watch?
Yeah.
What's fucked up is like, I'm like, I want to vote for Hal Walker. And going back to the satire of the movie, to steal your phrase again, the intersection of politics and celebrity, right? The movie is not so overtly about politics, but I think it's 100% about politics.
For sure.
And it's all leading to, the final scene of the movie, where they're trying to put on the political rally at the Parthenon.
Yeah, with Barbara Jean headlining.
Yes. And you realize like the whole movie, these campaigners have been trying to recruit musicians to come play this event. And so they're all there. And there's this other character, this like random guy. He's a young guy who's by himself. He's carrying around this fiddle case. And we keep coming back to him. And because of the nature of the movie, where we just keep popping in on these different people, you're like curious why, but also you're like, well, that's the way this movie is.
Yeah, I think we just assume by association with his fiddle case or guitar case or whatever.
He's another musician.
Yeah, he's just, he's down on his luck. He's just looking for a place to stay. That's what we assume. We aren't given any of that.
But the question, you are uneasy because you know so little about him, and you're like, what's this leading to? And ultimately, at this rally where Hal Philip Walker is going to speak, Barbara Jean opens it with a song, and she's up on stage with Henry Gibson's character too, and that young man is in the audience, and he starts opening his case, and almost immediately you're like, oh my God, he's gonna pull a gun out.
Yeah.
And I think I had guessed it earlier in the movie that he was there to like kill someone. I thought he was there to assassinate Hal Philip Walker, right? Just because this is post Kennedy. But he actually ends up shooting Barbara Jean instead.
Like he's like, this would make a bigger statement.
Yes. And you need to keep in mind, this is pre John Lennon, right? So celebrities weren't getting iced, right? we had political assassinations in this country, but there weren't a lot of like big statement celebrity assassinations.
Yeah.
And in researching the movie, I found this great quote from the commentary where Robert Altman was called up by the Washington Post after John Lennon's murder.
Oh,
like a couple hours after the murder happened. Some reporter called him.
He was on the short list. Okay.
And I'll just read you this straight quote from Robert Altman. He says, "When John Lennon was assassinated, I got a call immediately from the Washington Post. And they said, 'Do you feel responsible for this?'
Fuck off.
And I said, 'What do you mean responsible?' 'Well, I mean, you're the one who predicted there would be a political assassination of a star.' And I said, 'Well, I don't feel responsible.' But I said, 'But don't you feel responsible for not heeding my warning?'"
King! King!
The statement here is, these people are not assassinated because of their ideas or what they do. Stars, right? They're assassinated to draw attention to the assassin. And in political assassinations, in their sort of warped minds, they know that they're going to have a certain amount of people who said, that son of a bitch politician should have been shot, because there's so much heat about it. But actually what they're doing is killing somebody who's in the public eye and is some sort of an icon, because this feeling that by doing that, committing that assassination, they draw the attention to themselves and they make themselves consequently important.
Yes.
It's no surprise to me, the Lennon assassination, because this is what all that is. And I don't think we have seen the end of it either.
No.
Right. So, this movie is post Kennedy, pre John Lennon, but the statement is there, right? Like, these are the anxieties of the American people, right? And as soon as one thing happens, some unimportant so-and-so is going to go, well, I want to be important. I want to mean something. And rather than, put that into something productive, they kill a star, right?
Yeah. Working with the tools they've got, which is rage.
Yes.
That's heavy. There's no other way around it.
And Nashville is this. It is not a heavy movie, like on
until
the face
it is,
of it,
yeah,
right. Until literally the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. Well, I actually want to circle back to a heavy moment, which I think really relates to why Barbara Jean.
Okay.
I think too, in the logic of the movie, is so this guy, the shooter, Kenny Frazier,
Yeah.
he was living with L.A. Jean's uncle.
Yes, he was like boarding with him.
Yeah. And he had his wife was in the hospital next to Barbara Jean, like across the hall or something.
Yeah.
And there's this big moment made of Barbara Jean being taken to the hospital, and she's surrounded by fans and flowers and the press, and it's just so overwhelming. And when I was watching, I was like, damn, I would lose my fucking mind if I was her too.
Right. And a lot of her scenes revolve around her having a fucking mental breakdown.
Yeah. And then her husband being very dismissive. Like, you going through one of these episodes, hon?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
But so there's all this fuss made about Barbara Jean because she's talented, because she's an icon. It's Nashville. We love our singers. We never see his wife, but he visits her a couple times. And the last time he visits her, she's passed on.
So little of a deal is made about it. They don't even call him. He has to find out at the hospital when he's there to visit her.
And I think it's even like, if you want more information about that, ask so-and-so.
Yeah.
I can't even be bothered to, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the desk nurse. It's not even the doctor.
Yeah. I can't even be bothered to offer you sympathy. Really.
Yeah.
It's fucking heartbreaking. I want to cry. I think about it right now. That's really when it gets heavy. And then, what's his name?
But the whole time he's trying to get L.A. Joan to visit with her, but she's so preoccupied with, trying to hang out with the musicians that she didn't care.
She'll never show up.
Yeah, she never does.
And then Scott Glenn's character, who's like this, he's
like
just the army guy.
Marine, yeah.
Yeah, sorry to be reductive, but he's in an army suit. Sorry to be reductive, but he's just in his like fatigues or whatever, right? And he comes out and he's like, just after this guy just got this devastating news that his wife is dead.
Yeah.
He comes out and he's like, have you heard the good news? Barbara Jean's getting out. Oh, I can't wait to see Barbara Jean. My whole life is written around Barbara Jean, Barbara Jean, Barbara Jean. It's like, anyways, say the goodbye to the missus, and he just fucks off.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, dude, he is twisting the knife and not even realizing it. And I think the shooter, the Kenny guy, he's at the funeral for this man's wife.
Yeah.
And he's like, where's your niece?
Joan? Yeah.
And he's like, I told her to come. I tried to get her, but she's at the show. And he's like, fuck that. And he storms out of the funeral, makes his way to the rally. And I think that's right where he decides, if he was there to kill the politician, he's like, this Barbara Jean.
Okay.
Barbara Jean. Like, because of you, like a normal man has this fraught relationship with his niece because of the fucking power of celebrity. Fuck you.
Yeah.
What can you do about it? I don't know. I mean, except acknowledge that. Like, if you find yourself being so tied up in celebrity culture, maybe reflect, take a step back and be like, is this having an effect on my relationship with
the
world?
People?
Yeah, the world, the people I care about. So fuck that guy for being like, do you feel responsible for John Lennon's death? No, king shit. Do you feel responsible from learning nothing ever?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're still buying into John Lennon is more important than, most people in the world. And now you're giving power to the man who murdered him by running the story for weeks on end,
by milking the tragedy.
Yeah.
Which, you can argue that, and I would say I am on the side that thinks that they were milking the JFK tragedy. Not that it's not tragic, but to just use it as a cudgel, as like leverage to like sway the opinion of the public, whatever the fuck that is. Like, it can be controlled. It's the fucking wind, man.
I read an article by Ray Sawhill, Yeah. Called a movie called Nashville. And there's two lines I wrote down from the article that like I really agree with. The movie ultimately reveals a country trying to pull itself together from a nervous breakdown. It's a country that's wired up tight with tension and masquerading as happiness.
Yeah.
So that goes back to, this is a movie about something very disturbing about American culture, but it's being projected as joy and pride and nationalism, right? And I even told you, like in the opening kind of scenes of the movie, I'm like, I feel very put off, and I don't know why. It feels like I can feel anxiety building, but I don't know why. And like, I think it's a mind trick he fucking does to you in this movie. It could be, despite all of the flashiness of the entire movie, there's like an undercurrent of dread, and you got to think about everything that's happening at the time that this movie is coming out. Watergate happened. Nixon resigns during the production of the film, while they are filming the movie.
Wow.
The Vietnam War ended in the spring of 75. Nashville comes out in the summer of 75. So you have a country of young people who are brought up on American exceptionalism, right? And we have to pack our bags in Vietnam and come home with a tail between our legs. The United States is experiencing a recession. Oil prices are high. Women are breaking into more professional roles, right? So family dynamics are changing. LGBTQ movements are becoming more visible in the country, right? So I think like this movie is about American identity, it's exactly what it is. And the fact that they're using Nashville, where country music is so tied, I think, to nationalism. You see red, white, and blue throughout the entire movie, right? So yeah, I think it is a movie very much about like Americans wrestling with this idea that they have about themselves and not quite meeting that. And it's the cognitive dissonance between those two things that drives us fucking bananas, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing about celebrity culture too. Here is a person who, yes, is talented, right? But now you've idealized and turned into a myth almost.
Yeah. You've reduced them to their talent.
Yes.
At the cost of their person.
And what you're doing to yourself is you're telling yourself the story of this person's myth, and you're believing it. And you cannot feel good about yourself unless you can mirror what you love about this star, right? Which itself could be a work of fiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing I found, the Henry Gibson song, 200 Years, right?
Yep.
So all of the things I just listed about what's fucking wrong with the country, right? You have, and mind you, the movie's coming out during the bicentennial. The song boldly claims we must be doing something right to last 200 years, right?
Yeah.
I think it speaks to this like willing ignorance of like the serious fucking problems that are happening at the time. But it's all covered up in nationalistic evangelical brouhaha, Yeah. It's fucking potent in the movie, I think.
Yeah. There's like 3 standout songs I think of when I think of the irony of the movie is the 200 years. We must be doing something right to last 200 years. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm rolling my eyes at the start of that already. And then in the middle, kind of like in the middle of the movie, we get a Haven singing Keep It Going. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, y'all remember this one? It's a classic for a reason. Keep it going. When the winter kills your crops, keep it going. You know, like
when the winter kills.
Oh, shit. But it's just, you know, when you get down, pick herself back up. That's America.
Yeah.
And then it ends with, God, what was it? I had it. It was, It Don't Worry Me. Mm-hmm. It don't worry me. I don't even know that I actually fucked up the melody there or whatever. But the sentiment of that song is the same too. Like, yeah, they talk about inflation or whatever, but it don't worry me. I'm just going to keep on singing.
I'm just going to keep on telling myself the story.
Yeah.
That, you know, that we're the greatest country in the world and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. So it's just, it's poetic. It's,
and it is poetic, right? But I think what elevates that is the fact that it's not Altman doing all of this. It is the combined storytelling of the actors, the musicians, of, you know, like every part of that movie, Altman goes, here's the vague line, do something, you know? And so to be able to craft a story that way, that is at first seems kind of incoherent, you know, you might need to watch the movie a couple times.
It actually bugged me the first time, but upon watching it again, I'm like, I love it.
And then you're like, he's saying something. He's saying a lot of somethings, you know? Oh my God, it's so good. It's a masterpiece. Yeah. It's a masterpiece of a movie. I got very passionate about it because I love ultimately what the movie has to say. So why these two movies together? What's your take?
It's The Winter Kills is like the dialed up to 11, like smirking while you like rattle off all these conspiracies, from an American perspective, right? Which can sour it can sour people. It can feel pretty cynical, but there's a grain of truth in it at the end of the day. And like why that relates to Nashville is Winter Kills is confronting it head on. Nashville is just if it was background noise that eventually came up and slapped you in the fucking face. So they are peas in a pod, I think.
They're both reaction kind of movies.
Yeah.
To overtly politics, right? But the culture in general.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Winter Kills takes the path of there's something nefarious. There's a group of people behind this and they're manipulating us. And they are muddying the waters of the truth so much so that fact and fiction are interchangeable. And Cerruti is basically saying information is power.
Yeah.
And the person who knows the truth is the most powerful. So make it so no one knows what the truth is. And then that way you can manipulate them even further, you know?
Yeah. And then what you were saying, I think you were echoing that scene, which I love, with Kefitz, when he comes back from the dead and Nick's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, why are these people dying and not me? And he's just like, boy, he's like, they will throw falsehood on top of falsehood until you don't know what's the truth. Like, that's the way, that's how the power keep their power. Don't you read the papers?
And then when it comes to Nashville, it's less about the falsehoods that are told to us, and it's more about the stories we tell ourselves to trick ourselves into thinking everything is okay.
Yeah, it's like how we swallow that pill. That is what we are.
Yeah. We must be doing something right. Meanwhile, everything is on fire in the background.
The show must go on, really, is what Nashville says.
Yes.
Where Winter Kills is just saying, it's a show. It is all a big show.
Yeah, and someone's behind it, but you don't get to know.
Yeah.
And that's Nashville and Winter Kills.
Yeah, hope you had a good time, actually. They're enjoyable movies, but we did pick apart and want to talk about the more serious aspects of them. But yeah, hope you guys should check those out.
Yeah, they're fun. I love them. A bit of a day to watch them back to back.
Yeah.
But like definitely check these movies out and try and pick up what like some really smart people in the 70s were trying to warn us about that we absolutely did. The warning of which we absolutely did not heed whatsoever.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you next week with some a little more comedy. We're gonna keep it a little more lighthearted.
We're gonna go up from here.
We're going up. We must be doing something right. We're gonna go up. Keep it going up.